Yo, it's that time again for AASLR. The gang's all here today. It's me, I guess Serena.
Take two.
Yeah, and Greg and then John joined us for this one for the take two. For the take two, we now have two of them, Greg and John.
We just need to have some redundancy.
That's right. John wanted to make sure that things were going to go well today, so that's
right.
why
That's the only reason I'm here. I'm here just to supervise.
Crack the whip.
So, Greg, how you doing today?
Good, man. I've got a completely different setup. I'm even in a different house this time, so we're good to go.
Okay. Good sacrificing to the demo gods. He burned the other one down, nuked it from orbit.
I burned the computer in the house and the previous Gregory alive.
All right, so we're good to go. Just to rehash what it is we're doing, what is it that you're going to be doing?
So we're going to start with DLLs, like a DLL primer versus executables. Then we're going to talk about hijacking, DLL hijacking, and then DLL sideloading.
Sweet. Sounds exciting. Let's get into it, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Let's go right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. And then all of a sudden my screen went black and everything was blurry and the audio cut out.
No, I have a signal. It's right here. I just got to hit this button right there. And everybody can see it now. It's working. Okay. I can read it. It's great.
Cool. So this is the end state. So we have this binary called myexe.exe. And there's some DLLs that are inside of it that export functionality to this executable, ADLL and BDLL. And, oh, that's funny. I forgot to say hello world. And then there's the new version where we sideload our BDLL into the binary that has all of our malicious functionality. And then when myexe.exe runs, our DLL fires. So a requirement for this attack is there's not much validation on BDLL. However, there can be. So if we're in the .NET framework, developers can use manifests to actually hard code the path, and they can also put in the SHA-1 hash in the manifest of their exact DLL. That way, it won't be allowed by the executable. So then the end state is there's this updated package with our malicious DLL inside the binary. So I was about to say slide to myself. So why do we want to sideload? Persistence, Privesc, and Stealth. AV EDR products are not good at detecting this because it's a DLL, and AV and EDR products are not good at DLLs. They're really good at executables. If you talk to any red teamer or penetration tester that has been active for the last 5 years, it's almost impossible to get someone to download an executable from the internet nowadays and have it run if it's not like a whitelisted binary. So there's a privilege escalation possibility here. We could hijack a process that runs with system privs, and our DLL can fire inside of a binary that runs with system privs. Persistence, say we want to hijack something like Notepad++ or Teams. We put our DLL inside of that binary, and then every time the binary fires, like say, Susie in accounting goes into work in the morning and she opens up Teams, we get a beacon. And there's the MITRE attack, how prevalent it is. You could be used for hijacking execution flow, defensive evasion, Privesc, and persistence. So people are pretty familiar with executables, but not so much as DLLs. So executables, they're separate programs that can be loaded into memory as an independent process. Hence, if you get a process listing, those all started as executables when they were small kids. And then they grew up and became processes. So DLLs are a little bit different, dynamic link libraries, in that they export functionality. Pretty much the entire Windows operating system is built on DLLs. And they're actually loaded into an existing process. They can't live independently in memory. The mic is picking up someone's keyboard. I don't know. I'm not even typing. I'm just like, yeah, for once, it's not me and John. So source code difference. EXEs have a main function and DLLs have a DLL main. Cool. We're looking at it in a disassembler. This is the machine code. This is the C code. This is the assembly. This is critical. So when we actually test our malware, our DLLs, we actually use rundle32.exe. Quick side note, if you use Cobalt Strike and you spawn a beacon and you do not migrate, it will run out of rundle32.exe. And that is a huge red flag for a blue teamer because that's been the functionality of Cobalt Strike pretty much since I can remember. So you got to migrate out of rundle32 or spawn to something else. And you can adjust that in your malleable C2 profile. So if you're a blue teamer and you're listening to this and you see rundle32 running with no arguments, that's wrong. But the way that we're going to use it today is to test our exported functions within our malicious DLL. And this is just like some compiling cheat code stuff. This is right out of our course, by the way, Offensive Development, which we're teaching on the Antisyphon platform, August 2nd through the 5th. And then we'll also be teaching it at Deadwood, South Dakota in October.
Oh, snap. Shameless plugs.
Yep. Throw money at us, make it rain. Okay, cool. So during my research for this, there's this thing called the DLL search order, and I didn't know about this registry key. There's a registry key called known DLLs that the Windows operating system will look in known DLLs before it even begins search order. So let me back up a little bit. So say Teams or Notepad++ or whatever binary you want to talk about, it fires, you execute it, and it's going to look for DLLs. So if it's not in known DLLs in this registry key, like wow 64 CPU, blah, 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 all this stuff, it's going to look in the application directory. So oh, cool, my email, no. So for instance, this is the one that we're going to be abusing today, the gup binary. So that's within Notepad++. So Notepad++ is right here. And then we're going to go into Updater. And since this binary is vulnerable to DLL sideloading, we're going to be attacking libcurl.dll. And we're going to be making a malicious libcurl.dll so that when gup, I know it sounds kind of weird, like a guppy fish or something. When that fires, it's going to look for libcurl.dll, and then we're going to replace this with our malicious DLL, and it'll fire. So that's what I'm talking about in the malicious, in the DLL search order. This is the current directory that the binary is going to execute out of. So, and then from current slide. So if it's not in known DLLs or the applications directory, the operating system will look through all these, system32, blah, yeah. This is important to keep in mind because as a low-level user, using accounting, we cannot write to these directories. However, if you do a privilege escalation, you can write to system32, system, and all this. So things to keep in mind. Okay, so this is more like DLL hijacking requirements as opposed to DLL sideloading. For a DLL hijack attack, you have to be able to write to the directory. So for instance, users can write to their own app data folder, must have exports from legitimate DLL in our malware's exports. For example, getting out of this again. My microphone is so big I have to like look around it to look at my screen. Such a noob.
Can you make the font on those a little bit bigger or a lot bigger?
How is that? Can you?
That's better. That's better.
Okay, cool. So what we're doing here, we're looking at, we are inside the bin folder of this MITRE ATT&CK framework DLL sideload thing. And then we're using dump bin, which is built into Visual Studio that comes with it. It's one of the built-in tools. And we're looking at the exports for libcurl.dll. And that's actually that's our malicious one. That's our malicious DLL that we're going to sideload. And these are the exports in our malware. And now we're going to go over here, and this is the legitimate version of libcurl.dll. It's within Notepad Updater. Then we did the dump bin exports on libcurl.dll. As you can see here, the legitimate version is much more. There's much more exports. So this is like the minimum amount of exports that we needed to actually get the DLL to fire when I executed gup. So things to keep in mind. If you have a lot of time, you might as well just add all the exports to your malware. This is sort of like the least effort to get to pull the attack off. You want your malware to mirror the legitimate DLL. Cool. Binary must execute our DLL before limited execution search order. Okay, so let's talk about
Greg.
Procma. Go ahead.
Real quick, go back to that previous step with the command prompts, please. With curl, the exports.
Oh, the okay, just a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, your stream. So
Very
as a cool red team trick, you can actually forge these signatures inside your C++ code or .NET, for example. Instead of making it look where you only have 10 exports or 15 exports for a blue teamer, you can make it actually almost identical. Even all those exports actually will port or actually, I wouldn't say export, but map to your shellcode or to what your function is. So really neat and really easy to do. So it's something we can show in class. So just so you guys know that not all DLL sideloading DLLs only have one export. Some actually will almost look identical to the real thing. So something to know about. Something that we actually do during red teams. Yep,
absolutely. And then just like some icing on the cake, let's go ahead and look at, I want to show them one other way to find exports. So we're going to go into IDA real quick. Just because if they're like following along with what I'm doing right now, because pretty much everyone has Notepad. And we're going to look at these. No, I don't want symbols for my malware. Thank you, Ida. Okay, cool. So this is it. This is our entire program. If you're used to working in a disassembler, this is abnormally small. It's a very small DLL to begin with, but I just want to show you another way to do this. If you ever want to look at your import address table, this is a DLL, so there's not a lot of imports. If you're looking at a binary, there'd be tons of imports in here. However, in the exports, these are our exports. And then if we were looking at the legitimate version, there'd be just as many as before. So just two ways to do things. That's how many there'd be. All these would be in there. Cool. Okay, cool. So let's talk about actually hunting for opportunities for a DLL hijack as opposed to a DLL sideload. So what we're going to do is we're going to start process monitor. You guys can still see this, right? Yeah, you can. Come on, process monitor, you can do it. Okay, so a couple of filters you can use in process monitor to look for a hijack opportunity is process name. We'll just do the exe for this one, and then we're going to add that path. So it's going to end with DLL. Let's do result contains name not found. That apply. Okay. Start teams. Of course, the live demo didn't work when I did that. Okay, let's get rid of one of those filters. Process names is result contains name not found. Let's get rid of this one. So now we're just going to filter for all the DLLs that Teams loads. And there it is. So result, name not found, Oh, you know what we want to do? Operation create file. We want to filter for that as well. For those of you that aren't as familiar with the Windows API, a create file it creates a file, or if it already exists, it'll just open it. We had that. Okay, cool. So now we're getting into the weeds. So inside of Teams, we're looking for create file operations that end with DLL, and we can look through name not found. And while we're doing this, we're keeping the DLL search order in mind. So this is really important. So inside of app data, Teams current, blah, 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 blah. Oh man, I still can't see. That's a long one. Come on, dude. Come on, how big are you? Okay. So name not found. There's this current UI automation core.dll. So that would be a juicy target if you wanted to hijack Teams. Name not found. MSI MG32.dll, name not found. Great. That is a target. Version, that's a target. Target, name not found. User end. So
hey, Greg.
Go ahead.
For everybody watching, I do want to call out here that exactly what Greg is doing right now. This is how you find great bugs, because and some AVs actually out here will pull in configuration files, PEM files. They'll do really stuff. And sometimes when you start load a certain file or a certain image into like an antivirus EDR or some kind of product like a database, you actually can crash or cause like overflows and do various things. So this is also great bug hunting tactics for basically vulnerabilities and various things, not just DLL sideloading. So this type of technique is used commonly across many different fronts or domains of security and even threat management.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So keeping in mind the DLL search order, order of operations. So remember, wherever Teams is, the directory it will look for it'll look for the DLL there first. So later on, user env.dll is found in system32. Two things: we can't write to that directory, and it's also already exists in system32. However, it looks for user env in the app data where the Teams binary is actually located, which is in the current folder. And if you don't believe me, where we had your app data, let's go look for it. It's not roaming, it's in local. Current. So that's where it actually lives. So it lives inside C users, username, app data, local Microsoft Teams current. So look at all these DLLs in here. Thank you, Microsoft. That's awesome. Okay, enough on that. I think I beat you over the head with the process monitor and DLL search order. Access enum is a really cool tool. It'll basically tell you where on the file system you can write to. We're not going to run it. I do recommend just running that on your own box from the C drive. It'll tell you who can write to what directory on the file system. It'll take a very long time to run because it's looking at every single location on the file system. Oh, that would have been useful like just now. So these are the filters that are really good for looking for DLL hijacking opportunities. You put in your binary there, name not found, path ends with DLL, create file. Sometimes I like leaving off name not found because I actually want to know if it's found later on in the search order. Just like, it's kind of cool. Okay, we talked about this already, dumping exports from the legitimate DLL. As John mentioned, you want to know all these exports from the legitimate DLL because you want to use them to proxy in your malware to execute your beacon or your shellcode, whatever you want to do. Oh yeah, so I tried to use this tool called gendef.exe. I did not get that working. It basically makes definition files, so it'll pull the definition file from the legitimate DLL, and you can put it into your own DLL. I didn't get it working, so cool things to work on if you want a homework project. Generate definitions, what it means, but gendef.exe working, and that lives inside MinGW. Okay, cool. So now we're going to do some testing.
Hey, Greg, can we make this a little bit bigger? The PowerShell problem? Text maybe, can you zoom in?
Yes, Ryan made me learn how to do this. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous, dude. Cool. So let's look at our source code. Oh yeah, let's actually look at our target first. Let's look at Mr. Gup. Okay, so our target lives within Notepad, and it's actually in the updater, and it's called Gup, and the target is going to be libcurl.dll. Gup will not fire without libcurl.dll, so that's legitimate, and we're going to make a bad one. So I don't have the source code for the legitimate DLL. I just pulled the exports. So. Remember we talked about testing. You can use Rundle32 to test your DLLs. And I just ran this command. I can just hit up a couple times. So DLL unregistered server. Okay, sweet. PopScal. All right, sweet, cool. And why did that happen? Let's actually look at the source. Sorry, it's been a long day. No, that's not it. That's not it either. Cool, and that's the whole. Actually, that's probably not the best way to look at that code. Let me do this. Okay. Cool. So we've got some headers up here, a standard input output. If you ever want to use printf in your code, in your C code, you're going to have to use input output.h, and then Windows functionalities in windows.h. So these void curl easy set opt void return. Remember how we talked about exports earlier with the legitimate DLL, how there was like 50, but our malware only has like 10 or 12. These are those exports. So
yeah, so
this is our,
what Greg says, we could add these here. Yeah, so but with the extern, the decal spec, right, where it's basically where you do the DLL export. This is where you export the function out to public view. So for example, dump export or dump ports can tell you what this is. This is a great this is a great way where red teams will actually add these in and make it look legit. And you actually can, once you say you track down or reverse engineer what a certain DLL does, like for one of the team's DLLs, you actually return valid output or actually jump into like a main program. It's really interesting what you can do here and how far you can take DLL sideloading. This is like the most basic vanilla example we can show, but there's some very complex DLL sideloadings to actually make programs keep running and do various things without breaking or notifying users.
Awesome. Yeah, so like we were talking about earlier, the difference between EXEs and DLLs, we have to have a DLL main. This is the entrance into our program, reason for call, and this is our function, DLL unregistered server. You can name that whatever you want to. You can call it exec shellcode if you're executing shellcode. So in this case, what does our function do? All it does is pop calc, and then it returns. So in a real life scenario, this would execute your shellcode. Wow, there's like a bug on my mic. And then it would return.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Oh, I see what you did there. That's awesome. Haha. Lols.
You're welcome.
Okay. Oh, that was just a little DLL that I made during testing. So, okay. So let's talk about how do we actually like detect / prevent this attack. Defenders can use application allow list to prevent unsigned DLLs from loading with app locker. I already talked about this, but .NET developers can use manifest files. You can put a hash of your DLL within the manifest. Be specific as possible. Windows developers need to use load library and get proc address in combination. I need to demo that still within API Monitor. So a lot of times Windows developers, they will just use load library to call kernel 32, but then they won't do the last step, which is get proc address and actually call whatever function they want within kernel 32. So if they don't do that and that path is not hard coded, we can actually sideload our DLL. Bad developers.
Hey, Greg, go back there for a second.
Yep.
So for preventing sideloading as well. So I don't think everybody tried to hack into a game before, or like basically cheat engine, all those various things, like WoW back in the day. But what they also can do is instead of just hashing the DLL itself, you can also hash the function inside the DLL. Very interesting. Starting to see that more with a lot of games like Activision, Blizzard, all those different things. We do a lot of testing, and we start to see hashing a function, not just of the file, but the functions themselves, and also certain checks that are being done to help prevent sideloading from happening altogether, even reverse engineering. So lots that you can do here instead of just hashing.
Awesome. Yeah, I just noticed this is SHA-1, which is not so good, not so secure.
No, this is a good example.
Yeah, that would be a good company name, wouldn't it be? Like not so secure.
Yeah, not so secure.
Yeah. Shout out to Jonathan Hersack. He just got hired at For All Secure. Really proud of that guy. He's a fuzzing monster. Okay, so we were talking about how to protect our DLLs from being sideloaded. So we can do some additional validation here. This is for a .NET assembly, if you couldn't tell that already. So.
Yeah, I think also Authenticode too, for regular DLLs can also help tie in here too. So.
Okay, cool. Let's look at API Monitor. So something I've already done, when you're using API Monitor, you have to like set your filter and then start your binary and then point API Monitor at your binary. So in this case, we're looking at GUP. We're filtering. Actually, that's really small for you. So I'm gonna, come on, it's not working. The zoom functionality is not working anymore. What if I use, no, it's not gonna work either. Okay, I'll just pretend that you can see the screen. So over here, you have all of your DLLs and all the things that you can filter for, load library. So then over here, we can filter for libcurl.dll, which is our DLL that's called by gup.exe. So we already know that libcurl.dll is vulnerable DLL sideloading. So then we look at, so load library is called, but is get proc address called after load library? And if it's not, we can sideload, because that means the developer was lazy and didn't actually call the very specific functionality that they needed to within get proc address. So that's what that slide is talking about. That's how you could actually like filter for that. Okay, so that's the whole thing. While I was getting ready for this thing, I found a really cool tool that I want to show. It was like the X-Force Red Team work from home. No, it doesn't mean work from home. It means like Windows Feature Hunter or something. WFH. Okay, so all of that tooling that I just showed you, this thing can automate it. Yes, all of our skills just got outsourced to China. So Windows Feature Hunter, what does it do? It's just a Python script that ties in with Frida, and it looks for common vulnerabilities within executables. Windows Feature Hunter currently has the ability to detect DLL sideloading and COM hijacking opportunities at scale. So more homework if you want to check out this tool, work from home or Windows Feature Hunter. The other demo's pretty cool. They show actually sideloading MS Paint. So
yeah, and the problem we face today, though, unfortunately, is that a lot of vendors don't really care about DLL sideloading. They take it to the user not to get hacked pretty much. So a lot of sideloading bugs that go reported don't get fixed, including Microsoft sideloading vulnerabilities as well, as obviously you can tell. So cool hit out to the user or viewer here. So OneDrive has a very interesting sideloading vulnerability if you guys can find it. So not really disclosed or not public information, but pretty easy to find. So I'll leave it to you guys to figure out what it is.
Yep. So yeah, that's why I actually didn't do the POC with Teams. I don't want to be sued by Microsoft. So Teams has a bunch of juicy targets. So does OneDrive. So does Notepad, etc.
Yeah, and OneDrive is installed in every Windows box today. So
yep.
It's a great target.
So targets that you want to look for, signed by Microsoft is awesome because the market is 90% Microsoft, and if it's a signed Microsoft binary, there's going to be a lot less scrutiny on it. And also, it's going to be on every Windows box. And you also want to target an application that's the user is going to have to restart every single day. Teams, OneDrive, Chrome, Internet Explorer, if it's the year 2010. Cool.
I love it. Yeah, if you guys find any cool sideloading vulns, tag us. We'd love to see them. So we use them in red teams all the time. We always add or disclose what we find too. So if you guys want, tag us. We'd love to see your OneDrive sideloading. I know there's more than one, so we know which one you find.
Yes. Yeah, do it. Also, just a quick pro tip. I hate building like the actual template for the bug / feature is back on my hand. I hate building like DLLs by hand over and over again. So let's just do a quick. This is the skeleton of a DLL. So let's just talk about how to do this. Yes, this is code blocks. I'm old. This is not Visual Studio. So new project. So new from template, let's do dynamic link library. Go. John's best friend. Project title, John's best friend. Cool. GCC compiler, sweet.
So I know that Matt has a good comment question. So, but isn't Teams and OneDrive running user contacts? So yes, they actually both are.
So when we sideload, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not. So it's correct. It's used for persistence, not purpose escalation. So two different things there. Persistence is basically trying to gain a foothold of a target or a box, so you can continuously have a beacon or reverse shell or something, or gain some form of access. Purpose escalation is we're trying to escalate privileges. For example, a local user, John, moving up to a system or a trusted installer, or just a lab, an example. Everything we do today is based on persistence, not purpose escalation. Right. So two different types of vulns, two different types of bugs. That was good to call out.
Yes. So yep. So Teams and OneDrive both run in the user context. Teams is in app data. So if you want to be lazy here, laziness is always the goal. If you want to get the shell for a DLL really quick, take that garbage off. Take the garbage off. Okay. And that's how you get your full DLL if you want it in one file as opposed to like main.h and main.cpp. So if you guys didn't catch that, I opened up a project within code blocks. I made a new DLL. A DLL project comes with sources and headers. Main H comes with this. I delete the top 2 lines in the bottom because we didn't need them. And then I paste it into main CPP. So your actual DLL skeleton should look like that. I think, is that my phone? No. Okay.
No,
okay. So this is a little interesting script. Another way of dumping exports for legitimate DLLs. So this actually belongs to Charles Hamilton / Mr. Unicoder. He leaves the offensive team over at KPMG. So he dynamically walks the PE header here to dump the export table. Then he gets a pointer to the export directory, and then he loops through the export directory, printing out each export. So I'm not sure if this code is publicly available, so I'm not going to post that here. So let's get off that page. Okay, I'm pretty much done. John, do you have anything?
No, you did great. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to see something really cool? Ask Greg.
What's really cool?
I don't know, Greg. What do you got?
I can deadlift 480.
But can we
That'd be
see
cool.
that? He said we can see something really cool.
Oh. Is there anything else we can show in the lab guide? No, let's not do that. John, do you have anything?
No, not right this second. I don't.
Have you seen any of these DLL attacks be mitigated by MS, or do they just kind of ignore them? So white subreddit, that's a great question. Microsoft, it's almost like Russia's foreign policy. Russia's foreign policy is kind of like just deny, deny, deny. We didn't do it. Microsoft seems like everything they do is a feature.
Not a bug.
It's not a bug. Yeah, it's a feature. So,
No, Greg, tell them about Teams testing though. So us testing DLL sideloading, right? Teams will just hang, die, for example.
Yep, Teams will hang and die if you if you don't export all the functionality within Teams, it will die. Same
So
thing. Actually,
Microsoft is getting better. Yeah, they are getting better doing things. For example, they'll have applications crash or hang or do various things. Like OneDrive doesn't hang or crash when you load it, but you have to load it a certain way. Even moving on out of DLL sideloading into say sideload or loading to apps to a mobile, for example. Microsoft doesn't work. They're before, let's say a few years ago, you could inject into the application, inject into memory, reverse engineer, every day do various things. And today now it's almost impossible to get certain things to work without massive tons of work. DLL sideloading is kind of like the lost forgotten child. We're getting to that point where eventually it will be patched. It just takes a decade now. So
yeah, EDR products and AV are not good at detecting this at all. So if every legitimate file on the operating system was hashed, and there's database of that, and then when you start your binary, the DLLs were checked against a hash, that would mitigate the stack altogether. But that's a lot of upfront, computing.
Well, even if you look at Microsoft though, and the way it works though, Microsoft, I was involved in some Microsoft projects, and their resourcing, the way they compute resources on everything runs is very mathematical. It's very unique how they do it. So, for example, Windows Defender can only use 5% of the processing power of a computer. So taking a hash, computing it, adds that percentage value. So they have to cut corners at certain places to have things run smoothly, because obviously in today's day and age, we're a graphical user interface. And that's all we want to see. We want to see that pretty screen. So we compensate for that compared to the security of certain products. So there's always a massive list of what Microsoft has to do, but they can't get to it due to resources or other constraints. So until it becomes a problem, then they'll fix it. But today it's not a problem.
Yeah. Speaking of that, that crispy graphical user interface, that's why this is take 2, because first time my interface was not so crispy. So.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. That was that went much better than the first time. It was way over my head.
No,
Yes.
But that's okay, because
I don't believe that. You work at Blackdoors.
Yeah, but I do video. I don't do hacking. Serena does hacking, but I don't know if she got that.
Barely, just barely.
but maybe I need to take your class that you're going to be teaching coming up. Not to shameless plug anything or
So
whatnot.
we are White Knight Labs, owned by John Stigerwalt and Greg Hatcher. We'll be teaching our offensive development course online, virtually, via Antisyphon on August 2nd through the 5th. If you haven't signed up, feel free to do so. And then we're also teaching our offensive development course in person at Deadwood later this year, October at Wawa's Hack and Fest.
I'm going to put I'm gonna pop up the link for that too.
Also,
If it will
we're
show
gonna cover.
up.
We have couple
Oops.
Strike
I
from Help
did that
Systems.
wrong
They
channel.
kind of helped us out there. So really neat. If you guys have never used Cobalt Strike, come take the course, learn Cobalt Strike, learn profiles. Learn some really cool stuff. So there's challenges at the end of bypassing AVs and EDRs. I won't name them right now because we flame them in the course pretty bad, and they're pretty much some of the main AV/EDRs that every main company uses or we see on red teams on a daily basis. So
yeah, I will say one of these EDR vendors is very particular with getting a trial. It has not been fun to try to get a trial from them this time around. So
I got it today successfully.
Did you?
Yes, we're a small business,
Okay.
so we play the small business card. We actually got a 2-year discount. So
Nice. Well, Stay
but
Classy
yeah, really cool
said,
stuff, guys.
Yeah,
They
nice
were here
work
for
with
take
Whiskey
one.
Jack Attack. I see that you got a 500-pound deadlift. I do not have that yet. I did in 2017, not anymore. So
all right, last call for questions. If not, I think that's a wrap.
Norton's definitely on the
Captain
list.
Crutch, no, we're not going to have Norton or Avast or anything like that in our course.
No, these are all paid products.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. This has been another episode of AASLR DLL Sideloading Take 2 with Greg and John. We are happy that you were here today,
Oh man,
and we'll see
Enter the
you on
Madness.
the next one. What's up?
I just saw
you got
Enter
a
the Madness
question?
comment. So he says, I have to attend your course. I'm currently on an engagement having issues with Cobalt Strike Execute Assembly. It gets picked up by the EDR. So if it's getting picked up, I would recommend running inline execute assembly via a BOF, a beacon object file. And we go very, very deep into Cobalt Strike and beacon object files and using inline execute assembly within the course. So yeah.
Just a
It'd be
tip as
useful.
well. Go ahead and unhook. So look on Google, use your Google foo. Look up unhook-BOF or unhook BOF. So you'll find some good results there. And then it all fails. Execute assembly is just for loading .NET, right? So you always can convert your .NET with Donut or other various tooling to just inject rate to local process injection, which is like the number one way right now to get around AV EDR, is unhook your local process, then inject shellcode into it, and then convert your .NET into shellcode. And just output a TXT file, or don't get the output at all. So pretty neat.
Hey, Enter the Mat. One more thing: if you're using execute assembly to inject the CLR, the common linked runtime, which .NET needs, into a process that doesn't normally load the CLR, EDR, if it's like a top tier EDR, they'll pick that up all day. So one thing that you can do is use find objects BOF by outflank, and that'll actually tell you if there's processes that you want to attack that are using the CLR or have the CLR loaded.
Ooh, another cool tip: if you're using Cobalt Strike, just using Cobalt Strike execute assembly, make sure you have AMSI inject turned off. That's another reason that you might be getting caught with execute assembly. Is your profile possibly could be trying to do AMSI bypass or injection, which is automatically flagged today by most or common AV EDRs. So if you know that little section inside your profile that talks about like memory indicators, make sure you actually customize that and just don't use something off the web. Make sure you understand what each of those does. And then also, most likely the most common thing that's happening is you're not executing from a signed process. So try like running the same command from like WMI-PRVSE or DLL host, since those are all trusted and signed processes. On like, use the early bird technique and then actually try running the same command. You might have way better different results.
He says they're just gonna attend your course, he or she.
Okay, cool.
I think that's a good place to end, though. So,
Yeah.
any other questions? You can hit up Greg. You're on. You're gonna be on the Discord, right? Greg,
Yeah, my Discord.
if you're on our
Roger that.
VHS Discord, you can hit up Greg on there. I forget what your username is, but I you're on there. He'll ping in there, and that's
I'm
a wrap for
not on
today.
there.
I'm Greg Beef on Discord.
Here, I'll post
Greg
me.
Beef on everything.
I'm Stigs or the real Stigs.
Stupid.
Oh, see that? Okay. Now that makes sense.
I'm on the Antisyphon Discord. Is that the right one, or do I need to be on a different one?
There's we'll get you straightened out.
Okay, sweet.
Ooh,
I'll get
there's
you
a
on
good
the right
question
one.
here. Is your
Another
physical
question.
development course suitable for the noobs, even if we can deadlift?
So we thought that it was beginner friendly, and our feedback after we taught it was that it was not very beginner friendly. We do have a bunch of resources that we always give out to the students about a week before, which means we have to get those out to the students like right now. Yeah, it is helpful to have a background in C, C Sharp, like
C++.
Windows APIs, process injection techniques, etc.
Writing some shell code, because at the end of the course, guys, we give away 137 and $7 for as an Amazon gift card for challenges. Your challenges basically are to bypass EDRs and perform some kind of function with Cold Strike on 3 different boxes. So and no one's actually been able to complete the challenges today who's taken our course. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You guys definitely learn a lot, but it's also, we can only teach you so much in 2 to 4 days. So we also expect independent study. So, but I mean, trust me, you'll leave with an awesome lab guide and some fun conversations, because day 2, like, you're thrown into the fire and all we do is just try to bypass ERs and EVs all day. You guys literally just watch my screen.
Yeah,
Then do
and actually,
your own stuff too.
Sean from Black Hills won the competition at the last training. So
Oh,
he submitted
yeah,
a report. He got one of the challenges. I think there's 3, isn't there?
Yeah, there's 3. So if you guys don't know what Greg's best friend is on Twitter, so Google that or search for it, gregsbestfriend.exe. That was our signature from the last class, and we'll do the same thing again. So
yeah, he made a fully undetectable
It's
malware during the course and dropped on Twitter. Any tips to improve my clean and jerk? I don't have good shoulder mobility, so when I clean and jerk, I actually like supinate or whatever. I like stick my head back. That's probably for a different Twitch stream, though.
Yeah, now we're getting to a different subject here.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. Well, thank you for coming on, and thanks everyone who joined us on YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn, and Discord. So we will see you next week.
We did, like Cyberduck. We did. All right, I'm gonna hit the button. Killing it with fire.
Kill it.
Bye.
Kill it.
bye.